Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Well, welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast. It's great to have you with me. I want to celebrate something with you in this podcast. I'm aware there's a horrible war going on in Ukraine. I'm deeply involved in those issues here in D.C. and in terms of managing and advising some charities. I'm aware that we have rancorous politics in D.C. Again, I live right here in the middle of it. But I think there's a moment now for us to celebrate something. And I'm frankly going to tell you that it has to do with my country. We have many people listening to this podcast from around the world, and I'm usually very careful not to emphasize just the United States because I'm proud of what great leaders and good people are doing all over the world. But there's something unique about America that I want to celebrate right now, and it has to do with generosity. America has an emphasis on generosity that is built into its laws, it's built into its tax laws, it's built into its culture, and that has really raged to the fore in the last decades. It's one of the things I'm most proud of my nation for, and it's, by the way, before I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to be encouraging you to take this to another level. America is amazingly generous. It's built into its culture, as I say, it's built into its laws. It's built into its heritage. And I'm even grateful that though there are some really disgusting people on the national scene and constantly forced on us by social media in terms of entertainers and people who are odd and strange and perverted, you know how people just get to the in front of the camera, so to speak. I'm glad that some of those who are in front of the cameras are amazingly generous people. Elon Musk is a guy I find fascinating, unbelievably generous. By the way, look what he did by adjusting his satellites to help the Ukrainian war effort. I mean, pretty amazing. Warren Buffett, Gates, the Greens of Hobby Lobby. I could go on and on and on. People, Jobs, Steve Jobs, others, known for their charity, known for giving. I like the fact that people can gain attention in the United States for generosity. But it's not just what the stars are doing. It's what the average guy is doing. Just consider a few stats that I want to bring to you, and I'll try to give as much sourcing as I possibly can. According to Charities Aid Foundation's World Giving Index, America was the world's most generous country in this past decade. Now, that's been the same, by the way, for previous decades, but these are just the numbers for the last decade. This is a survey, this World Giving Index is a survey of 1.3 million people in 125 countries. Not only did Americans give money, but 72% of Americans help strangers and 42% help and volunteer. Now, that's pretty amazing. That's the highest in the world. What I love is that Americans grew more generous during the pandemic. 2020 and 2021 donations each topped 2019. In other words, we were more generous in 2020 and 2021 than we were in 2019 before the pandemic began. I love seeing that during a time of economic uncertainty, during a time when many of us thought in terms of facing death or the possibility of death, during a time of huddling up in our homes and basically retreating from people physically as we were urged and even ordered to do. Many Americans began to give more. I really love this. These stats, by the way, cut across religion, region, and age, with nearly 60% of Americans giving money last year. The average donation in America was $574. The average donation in America was $574. Now, that's not a massive amount, but when you consider some obviously don't give anything, and then you have people giving huge amounts, but most people, I would say, statistically most people are giving far more than that. Certainly most of the people that I know. Here's something that I love, and I'm reporting stats, but I have to celebrate these along the way. There is a trend, a massive trend, of people setting up Facebook and TikTok fundraisers instead of birthday presents. In other words, for your birthday, what you do is set up a TikTok or Facebook fundraiser, and people might roll their eyes at this, but you won't believe the statistics. Facebook says birthday fundraisers are bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And these aren't just to, donor-directed funds and personal charities. The top beneficiaries are St. Jude's Children's Hospital, the Alzheimer's Association, the American Cancer Society, and No Kid Hungry. I want you to remember those organizations. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, the Alzheimer's Association, the American Cancer Society, and No Kid Hungry. I think it's amazing. By the way, you've probably heard about Airbnb having given away hundreds of thousands of dollars in Airbnb stays for Ukrainian refugees. Last week, 61,000 nights were booked at Airbnbs in Kiev and other cities, 34,000 of them by Americans. I love this. Americans are going on Airbnb, and what they're doing is they're booking places to stay for refugees out of the Ukrainian situation and for people they'll never meet. I just love it. I just love that. I love that kind of generosity. I love that kind of creativity. And quite frankly, I love making generosity easy. It's not that I only believe in that kind of generosity. I'm a guy in my life who's flown to the other side of the world to help in a cause. But I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it's not just that I believe in easy chair generosity. But I do like the fact that right now, when you stop listening to this podcast, you can bring up your phone, go on the Airbnb app, and book a home for someone for a few days while they're exiting the Ukraine, exiting Russian bombardments, and they have a nice place to stay at, a place with running water and heat and all the things they need, and you don't have to do anything but move your thumb on your cell phone. I do love that kind of technology. I know technology is a challenge and it causes brain rewiring, and I think we all have to be careful, and I've talked about that before. But I love the fact that you can give to the Red Cross just by texting. I love the fact that you can help Ukrainian refugees without having to move basically anything but your hand and your thumb. I really do love that. And I love what's happening. I love the way the laws allow us to give charitably. I love the fact that we can do great things basically from our phone. I love the fact that people are forgoing birthday presents, and instead they're saying, look, give to a charity. Celebrate me. If you want to honor me and celebrate me, don't go buy me another thing I may already have. I don't need anything else. Most of us have got more stuff than we can shake a stick at. What we want is that perhaps in our name, our friends go together and give some thousands of dollars to the Alzheimer's Foundation or St. Jude's or some cause that we care about. And I believe in that very much. By the way, I do want you to be wise about your giving. I want you to remember that there are some organizations that allow you to make sure these charities are reputable. For example, there's an organization online, BBY's Giving Alliance, Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, and a thing called Candid, spelled like you expect it to be, Candid. All of these allow you to find out if these charities are reputable. And then, of course, you can find out if they are tax-deductible donations to these organizations by going on the IRS's tax-exempt organization search. Tax-exempt organization search. We'll make sure to put these organizations in the show notes for this episode. Now, I'm celebrating this because I love the fact that our government makes this doable. I love the fact that the IRS accommodates these deductions. I love that the government allows for the forming of 501c3s and nonprofit organizations. And by the way, anybody can have those. I love the fact that giving is tax deductible. I love the fact that you can verify the organizations with third-party organizations that are making sure that these charities are reputable. I love that you can search to make sure they are tax deductible on your government's website. In other words, our whole country is conspiring to make giving easy. And I want to say to you, even though this is not a podcast where I do a lot of, fundraising or do a lot of challenging, I want to challenge you to be a generous person. I want to challenge you to work giving into your life. I believe this. I'm a Christian, and so I believe that this is how we honor God. I believe this is how we care for the poor. This is how we care for the needy. I'm not going to hide from the fact that in my faith, both the Torah, the Old Covenant, as Christians call it, and the New Testament, we're told that the generous person prospers, and that shouldn't be our primary motivation, nor should we think the word prospers means we're all going to drive around in Bentleys and fly Lear jets, but we are told we will prosper. And I'm not going to hide from those provisions of Scripture. I didn't make that up, that God put that in there. And so I'm not going to hesitate from talking about the fact that, people who are radically generous usually prosper. And it's one of the reasons that we should give. It's not the primary reason. The primary reason is to help people. The primary reason is to do good. The primary reason is to alleviate suffering. The primary reason, I believe, most of all, is to honor God. And then I think there are some benefits that flow back into our lives. And I want to say, too, that, studies have shown that a lot of companies and a lot of individuals even would actually be better off if they gave more from a tax and business situation. Now, I'm not trying just to say give so that you'll beat taxes or have a lower tax rate, but time and again, I have CPAs and tax experts tell me that if people would give more, they actually be in better shape when it comes to their taxes. Certainly when it comes to probate. Certainly when it comes to a person's death and what happens with their estate. You've heard me rant on before. If you don't have a will, if you don't have various instruments to determine what happens when you die, often estates lose massive amounts of money. So there's even a practical business reason for this kind of generosity. I believe in radical generosity. I believe, as a Christian, of course, in tithing to my church, giving a 10% or more. I believe in giving to causes. I believe in radical generosity. But I'm celebrating today the fact that Americans actually during the pandemic have given more and are eager to do even more and are coming up with creative online ways of giving. Now, here's some practical things. I want you to consider to become more charitable, and I want you to use some of the instruments that I've mentioned and that we're going to put in the show notes to make sure that your giving is wise, to make sure it's sound, and give to organizations you care about. Number two, those of you living in other countries, I want to make sure that you are encouraged to urge the kinds of laws and even better laws than we have in the United States, but the kinds of giving laws, the kinds of laws that allow for tax-deductible giving, the kinds of laws that allow people to form charities, work for those laws in your country. Look what's happening in the Ukraine. Private individuals are making hundreds of millions of dollars of difference because in their countries, charities have been encouraged, technologies have followed suit, there's wealth to give. It's absolutely essential. We can do amazing things together. So work for the changes of law in the laws in your country. Not every country has the opportunity for a private citizen to form a charity, for that to be recognized by government, for the contributions to that private charity to be tax deductible, and for all of it to be protected. And then I want to say to those of you who are listening to this podcast, and I love you dearly, I'm so grateful you're here, who are in the U.S. Congress, in the U.S. Senate, working in politics, in the executive branch, those of you working at the state level, there are hundreds of you who listen to this podcast. Be sure to protect these laws. Be sure to enhance these laws. Ensure to expand them. We want to encourage charity. Now, we want to crack down on those who abuse it. We want to crack down on those who manipulate charity, because that's a horrible crime given the damage it does to contributions as a whole. Anybody who's faking a charity, anybody who's collecting money in some kind of phone tree situation, where they're lying about what they're actually doing with the money, that should be absolutely prosecuted. It should be absolutely hammered by the law. There should be severe penalties. But all of that is because of the good that charity does. And I'm lauding my country today. Forgive me, those of you who live in other countries. You know I love you dearly. But I want you to move your country more in this direction, because I'm lauding America today. One of the great things about this country, and there are a lot of things that are not going well, a lot of things we need to fix. I'm the first to admit that, and you hear that all the time on this podcast. But one of the things that is really commendable and beautiful is the passion for charity. You've got kids raising money on TikTok. You've got kids raising money trying to form foundations. I've got people who call me and say, my 16-year-old's got an idea to raise money for Ukrainians. How do they do it? And sometimes I've even put my lawyers in contact with them, paid the bill once in a while to help them with this thing if the family doesn't have that kind of money. That's the kind of passion that is existing in this country. Not with every individual, obviously. There are Ebenezer Scrooges everywhere, and you'll have to read A Christmas Carol this Christmas to know what I'm talking about. But for the most part, this is a radically generous country, and when challenges hit, when COVID hits, when there's a pandemic, people get more charitable. When a Ukrainian war breaks out, people figure out ways to help them. Think about that. 61,000 Airbnb bookings, some of them for many, many days, to help the refugees leaving the Ukraine. What a creative and beautiful thing. So be charitable, do what you can to expand charitable laws, encourage charity. And by the way, I'm not beyond ending by saying I run a 501c3 to encourage men. I want you to contribute. Go on to GreatMan.tv. You'll see a button in the upper right-hand corner that's very obvious. It'll take you to a page that's all about donations. You can make your tax-deductible donation as we impact manhood around the world and do it in a non-bigoted way that celebrates women and that is absolutely changing lives. And I want to say one other thing, too. I really commend Amazon.com. They have a program, which, again, GreatMan, my organization, is connected to, called smile.amazon.com. Here's how it works. And by the way, you can do this for any charity you want to support, but if you haven't got one, do it with us, GreatMan.tv. You choose a charity, and then you go about your normal Amazon life, buying everything that you buy and getting all your discounts and all your special deals. And Amazon donates a percentage of your purchases to the charity you choose. Go on to smile.amazon.com and you'll see GreatMan. I think our name is GreatMan Global as it's listed there, but we're the only GreatMan. It's run together, capital GREAT, capital MAN, one word. We're the only one on there like that. You'll find it. And you don't have to give a dime when it comes to this program. It doesn't reduce any benefit you get on Amazon, but it allows a percentage of what you buy to go to GreatMan or the charity you choose. I commend Amazon for that. Let's build more companies like that. Let's encourage this kind of generosity because we can change a generation if we do.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator on Fox and CNN. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.